Welcome to World Stories. Fleeing violence in the Central African Republic. German fashion design and a modest cut. But first, to Northern Ireland. Brexit brings with it many problems, not least the issue of the border between North and South. British Prime Minister Theresa May says there will be no change to the status quo, but can she be trusted?
The estuary in Newry in Northern Ireland is actually a border, and yet nobody can see it. Invisible borders have brought peace to Northern Ireland. That's why people in communities such as Newry voted against Brexit.
Come on here, come on.
Damien McGinnity fights against an exit from the EU that would see the return of border posts near his farm.
At the back of that is the Republic of Ireland. There are 270 crossings. Previously, there was only 18 points by which you could cross. If it came back to that, it would be an enormous inconvenience. A sharp Brexit for us will be an economic disaster.
But it's not just the economy that's at stake. Memories of the Troubles, the conflict between Protestants and Catholics that gripped the island for decades, are still on people's minds. Jonathan Powell was the main negotiator of the process that eventually led to peace.
There will, I fear, be more violence as a result of this. If you put the hard border back in again, you'll have installations. You'll have to have border posts. You'll have to have guards on the border. And they will, of course, be targets for the dissidents.
Powell says the deal with the EU will eventually unravel because Prime Minister Theresa May and her government promised too many things to too many different people.
And the protection of the Belfast Agreement.
They said to the Irish that there would be no hard border, they guaranteed it. They said to the DUP, the Unionists, that there would be no border in the Irish Sea. They said to the Brexiteers in their own party that we would leave the customs union and the single market. And they said to the EU that there would be regulatory alignment if there was no other agreement. Those four things are not compatible.
Some people, like these protesters in London, don't want to leave the EU at all. But there is also a lot of pressure on May from within her own party to make a clean break with the EU. The UK will have to decide whether to align itself closely with the EU, even after Brexit. And that's one thing that most people in the island of Ireland are hoping for, in the north as well as in the south.
Civil war broke out in the Central African Republic in 2013. Fighting between Christian and Muslim militias is fierce, and there is little in the way of a functioning government or administration. More than 1 million people have been displaced.
This is the first aid delivery in months to reach the Kaga Bandoro refugee camp. Up until now, the runway had been blocked by survivors seeking shelter from war and persecution. Those who've ended up here have horrific stories to tell, of murdered family members, rape and kidnappings, of entire villages burnt to the ground. UN soldiers patrol the area here. That provides enough security to make sure aid arrives safely. UNICEF has built a temporary school where the thousands of children stranded here receive lessons. Lucie Vlachou is one of them. She's 12 years old.
My father is dead. The Seleka killed my grandfather. So we fled from our village. I've been living here for 3 years.
Her teacher tells us the rest of her story. The Muslim Seleka rebels kidnapped her mother. Lucy hasn't seen her since. Everybody here is severely traumatised. UNICEF at least tries to create some sense of normality in the camp, even if it's an almost impossible task.
The humanitarian needs are increasing. Sadly, more and more people are under attack, are IDPs. We have 600,000 people who are internally displaced within the country, which is what it was at the peak of the crisis in 2014. So there's still a lot to do.
The last brutal attack in Kaga Bandoro happened about a year ago. Many parts of the city have been abandoned. Those who survived are now squeezed in at the camp at the airport, along with thousands of refugees. The front lines between the warring rebel groups run right through the middle of the city. UN troops have taken a position on the only bridge and check vehicles for weapons. But so far they've been unable to stop the bitter fighting. The chances for peace are slim. The conflict may be rooted in religion and ethnic origin, but it's fueled by the fight over the country's resources: land, gold and diamonds.
Winter skies over China are often marred by smog. Efforts to combat air pollution are being stepped up, but the price for employers and workers alike is often high.
Normally trucks are lined up here to be loaded, but times aren't normal at the Huoliming construction materials plant. We've had to shut down production completely. China is implementing drastic measures to combat winter smog, forcing Huoliming to close down until the end of March next year. We've been on forced vacation for 10 days. All we can do now is a bit of maintenance. Huo's plant mixes powdered rock with asphalt. His grinding mills have had to stop work in the past when smog was especially bad, but they've never been halted for an entire 4 months. We've still got some reserves from recent months. It's enough for maintenance and to get us through the winter. Almost all companies around here have been forced to shut down, from the small plant that makes concrete pipes and cobblestones to the local cement works, the region's biggest employer. The workers who come from the surrounding villages were sent home without pay. My husband sits around playing cards now. I try to stay afloat with casual labour. If someone needs their heating unit repairing, things like that. For years, China put growth ahead of environment. But now construction sites are idle, steel production throttled. Shijiazhuang, 300 kilometres south of Beijing, has the reputation of being one of the filthiest cities in China. Now you often see blue skies and white clouds. You never had that before. Last year I never left the house without a protective mask. This year I can simply go for a walk under a blue sky. I hope there's less smog this year. Huoliming has rented out some of his compound to a trucking company. He gets no state support, nor do any of the workers he's had to sack. Under these circumstances, the best thing to do is to resaddle. I'm looking for new business opportunities. There's no future in this. I don't want to do it any longer. Huo doesn't know what he will be doing in future, so long as it doesn't involve getting dusty.
Modest fashion is the latest trend on international catwalks, and it doesn't just attract women who want to cover up for religious reasons. The billion-dollar trend is booming, and now German fashion designers want in on that success.
A photo shoot for the upcoming winter collection. Despite the icy temperatures, the photos have to give no hint that the models are freezing cold. Time and again, designer Meryem Lebdiri steps in to make adjustments. It's her 15th collection. Everything has to be perfect for the latest catalogue. In this collection, it was important for me to return to my label's origins, to have different models on the set, some wearing the hijab, some without, some with turbans, a mixture of light and dark complexions, to make everyone feel included. In her studio near Mannheim, the Algerian-born designer is constantly creating new combinations. I used a lot of earthy tones because I find them very elegant and to get away from too much black. So we have rust brown as a key colour. It's a mixture of dark orange and something explosive. Despite 15 collections in 7 years, Maryam Lebdiri hasn't been able to establish her Mizan label on the German fashion scene. She's specialised in modest fashion, a conservative, more restrained style that shows very little skin. She's frequently turned down for fashion shows. Germany's behind when it comes to modest fashion. I took my decision to learn fashion design back then out of a passion. The modest fashion style didn't exist then, but the market's been booming in recent years, and now I want to be in there with the big players. The big players get together in Dubai this year. The Persian Gulf state is putting on the biggest modest fashion week ever. 15,000 visitors from around the world are expected to attend. Maryam Lebdiri's Mizan label is one of 200 fashion houses showing their latest collections. There's a lot of interest in Mizan just now, more than we'd expected. We're very happy about it. We just thought we'd try it out. And thanks to God, we're overwhelmed. Maryam's show doesn't start until late in the evening. If she attracts enough attention here, it could mean her international breakthrough. That would open up a €100 billion a year market to her. And then perhaps she'd no longer have to struggle for recognition back home in Germany.